I wanted to make this quick video to explain this particular problem on the individual lab. So it says consider the facts regarding strep throat in children in the rapid strep test. It says the prevalence is 37%. So I'm going to highlight some of the information here. So we have a prevalence of 37%. We have a specificity of 95%. I'm sorry, sensitivity of 95% and a specificity of 98%. Now we have to remember that what sensitivity and specificity is. So sensitivity was the probability that they test positive given they have the disease. Okay. And then the specificity was that the probability that they test negative given they have the disease. So we need to use this information to try and fill out this table. So the prevalence here was 37%. And so prevalence is the percent of the population that actually has the disease. So in our example, we have a population of 1,000 people. If the strep throat has a prevalence of 37%, that means 37% of 1,000, which is equal to 370. So I'm just going to write 370 people have strep. Okay. So now we need to use the sensitivity and the specificity to fill in the top right. Sorry, the top left and the bottom right. Okay. So let's use those two pieces of information. So out of the 370 people, we expect for the sensitivity that 95% of them, that 95% of those who have strep throat will test positive. So we got to figure out what is 95% of 370. And that gives us a total of 351.5. And we'll just round up to make that 352 people. Okay? And then I can, from there, kind of reverse engineer how much or how many people tested negative for strep. Because if there's 370 people total who have strep, and 352 of them tested positive, that means there had to have been 18 who would have tested negative. Alright, now let's come over and solve for the true negatives. And that uses the specificity. So the specificity in this particular test was 98%. So we need to determine how many people do not have strep. Well, we know there's 1,000 people and 370 of them do have strep. So if we do 1,000 minus 370, that gives us 630 people who don't have strep. Of those people, 98% of them will test true negative. That's what the specificity tells us. So 98% of that would be 617.4, which will round down to just 617 people. Okay? And then again, we just kind of do some reverse math. And so if we have 630 people who do not have strep, we take out the 617 who tested negative, leaving 13 people to test positive. And so to get the total number of people who tested positive, we just add straight across 352 plus 13, which would be 365. And then the negative Those who test negative for strep would be 18 plus 617, and that's 635. So if I add 365 plus 635, I get my total of 1,000, and the math adds up nicely.